Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, Sigval here, and welcome back to another video. This is a bit of a different topic. It's going to be about how to make a successful new characters. Because in my eyes, the last two characters released by Injustice Mobile sucked ass, and I don't like either of them because of various reasons. And in this one, I'm going to go over what makes a newly released character possibly good. Now, I don't fool myself thinking that the people developing the game are gonna watch this video and be like, oh, this random guy on YouTube is right, we gotta do it like this. It's more like an interesting point of discussion that I wanted to bring and talk about with all of you. So, how to make a successful character? First of all, the AI. With the AI of the character, I mean the movements that the character does when you tap certain buttons and stuff like that, the swipes, the basics, the tags, the jump attacks, and all that. In that regard, there are two possibilities. One, they have a totally new AI, which is the example for John Constantine, and two, they have an old character AI that's repurposed, which is the example for Batman Who Laughs, for example, which has repurposed AI from Joker. The new AI can work for some characters and cannot work. And I don't think it necessarily depends on the character, but more like on the amount of care and work that's put into him and the amount of testing before release. Because John Constantine is the... no matter how much I don't like him because of his performance, he feels good to play. I like playing John Constantine, and I haven't gotten that feeling in a long ass time on a new character release. I think since Batman Who Laughs. And that was an old AI character. I think this is the best they've done with the new AI since they released Manta. And the new AI, which is built from scratch, can work. It can definitely work, but a lot of times it doesn't. For example, I would see absolutely no reason to build a whole new AI for a character. That is the new Shazam that's released, when you have a perfectly functioning one on the gold Shazam that to this day is better than the new one that you made for the new Shazam. Like, why? Why would I play something inferior that's supposed to move the same character? It just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, with this one, it really depends. We can also have a kind of not the best ported AI from other characters. For example, classic Wonder Woman uses the usual Wonder Woman AI when it comes to hits, which is not the most ideal because it has some flaws. Vixen uses Cheetah AI, which is yet again not the most ideal because it has some flaws that it carries around. It doesn't really matter. It depends on the situation in terms of what is better or what is worse. The point is, I don't really care if it's old AI or new AI. My only requirement, and I think this should be the first and minimum requirement for any newly released characters, it should be that it functions and it feels good to play, because I'm playing the game to feel good. I'm playing the game to enjoy the character that I'm playing. And the new Shazam, for example, did not achieve that, for example. Now that we're past the technical issues, let's talk about what role a character should fill. We're going to talk about strictly soul rates and raids, because in Arena and Champions Arena, it's yet again a weird situation. I like Arena and Champions Arena. There are characters that are far better than others in Arena and Champions Arena, but it doesn't really matter, because what you're going to build for soul rates is going to work in Arena and Champions Arena, but what you build for Arena and Champions Arena is not going to do well for you in soul rates, generally speaking. So that's why the focus should be for raids and soul rates, in my opinion, for it to be a successful character in my eyes. And now in Raids and Soul Raids, there are two roles currently available, and everything else kind of depends on new things being introduced to make them necessary, but currently you only need two things: support characters and damage dealers. Tanks are not necessary because while you might struggle with some fights and take a bit of damage, having a character that has all health rolls doesn't really make that much of a difference. Having dedicated tanks is not really that valuable in Soul Raids, because every character's got a ton of health from the passive stats from the artifacts. And then there's the combo builders, who are simply not needed. I personally absolutely love the old formula of have a combo builder, build a bit of combo, then tag in your damage dealer, do a fat special on a 40 combo, and get your damage that way. That's dead. That's dead. Literally none of the meta teams do that or use that. And even the few teams that still do specials either do them for percentage hull damage, or they do them with the Puppet of Zatanna while spamming them, so the combo meter has become less and less relevant, and even if for some reason it comes back to relevancy, we also have some combo builders that are sitting on the bench waiting for their moment to shine, like Silver Robin. Silver Robin, if the meta goes to a place where we need to build combos, Silver Robin is going to be one of the best supports in the game, but it's just not the case. We simply don't need that. So yeah, now let's talk about the two roles that we determined we do need in the game. What makes a good damage dealer? First one is obvious, percentage hull damage. Like, I'm kind of getting bored with percentage hull damage, I know, if you guys have the same feeling, because it seems like they're adding it to more and more characters, and I would like to deal the same damage that percentage hull damage does, but have other ways to do it, like something a bit more interesting. And percentage hull damage is not that bad if you make it happen in a bit of an interesting way, I guess. But it's simply something that can work. It's simply something you don't need to calculate a lot about. It's something you can't mess up. No matter how you look at percentage hull damage, love it or hate it, the characters that have been released with percentage hull damage are currently easily in the top 20 characters. So it's kind of something that you can't fail. Now, if you don't do percentage hull damage, or you do percentage hull damage but you want something else, you have another way. Have a double stacking value, for example, the League of Anarchy dot. Yeah, I'm gonna do a bit of a thing here where I compare this to the new Constantine burn, because that doesn't work. So we have two things here, League of Anarchy and John Constantine. League of Anarchy is going to get a separate value from EPI that's dots, that's based on their normal damage. Now, why is that so strong? Because the normal damage they do on their hits can crit and get affected by all the buffs in the game. Damage against target, more damage, everything works on the first value there. And now the second value depends on the first value, so by default we're going to get an increase from crit chance, crit damage that's affecting the first value. Now getting to the second value, that being a dot value, it can also in its own right crit and get affected by the damage against targets and the damage buffs and all of that. So you're getting pretty much so much higher effectiveness than you normally would out of all the buffs that you're getting. That is a double stacking value, or however you want to call it. And for example, if John Constantine increase on his damage, that was a percentage of his damage that was already doing based on the enemy's missing health, would act as an independent value rather than a value that's put together with his normal hits, you would be so much stronger. But yet again, this is just an example. So those are kind of the only two ways to make a viable damage dealing team that I can think of. Either very strong double stacking, or some percentage hull damage, or some way. I mean, there are a lot more ways, but those are my kind of the most general ones that I can talk about. Now, buffs. The new characters can also have buffs, but we're not going to talk about that in terms of damage dealers. Even though damage dealers can have their own buffs, we're going to talk about that when it comes to support characters. And before we get deep into the support characters topic, I want to talk a bit about gatekeeping. Stop gatekeeping support characters. The right way to do a support character, Classic Wonder Woman. She provides far more for the classic team than she provides for any other character. However, her most important buff, which is the additional crit damage, applies to any character in the game, and that's just wonderful. That's great, that's amazing, that's how I want to see things. Now, Hawkman, on the other hand, is how you should not do things. Hawkman's got a buff that gives you additional damage for the amount of combo that you have, and I don't think that's the most relevant thing in the game or the strongest, but it's simply a case of why not give it to every single team in the game and just give it to the Flawed Justice team and lock this man into a place where he'll most likely not stay, because his buffs are most likely not going to be stronger than what you would get from a Classic Wonder Woman or a Brainiac. You're simply locking a character into a position where he's not going to even be the best, and he's going to end up not being used. And yeah, that's kind of a bit of a rant about support characters not working for more characters. Like, by all means, if they're part of the team, make them do all they can for that team, but have that one general buff that can be swapped around with teams. I think that would be far more healthy for team composition in the game and for the lack of supports that we currently have. But yeah, rant over. Now let's talk about debuffs, because a support character is gonna buff things. Like, what's a support gonna do other than that? Deal damage? No, that's a damage dealer. So a support character is going to have a couple of types of buffs, which I'm going to divide in 3 tiers. The first tier is going to be the God tier buffs, because of the way they are calculated. Those are going to give you the most benefit: crit damage, lethal damage, and damage against targets. Those are, without a shadow of a doubt, the best buffs in the entire game. Now, over here, we can also add the damage buff, like simply damage, the one that Zatanna does, but I don't know if it's really on this tier. It's very strong. If you don't have damage from any source, it's extremely strong, but the more you have of a certain buff, the more diminishing returns it gives. And every single character has a damage buff already from the super move. And most characters are going to get damage buff from other ways, like King from the passive. Characters are gonna get it from Crown. The damage buff is very common, and that's why characters that give you more damage are not gonna be, in my eyes at least, as valuable as crit damage or lethal damage, because you already have a ton of damage in the game of damage buff. But damage is arguably on the same tier with crit damage, lethal damage, damage against targets. But I feel like damage is a bit lower than every one of them, and damage against target is a bit higher than every one of them. Those are the good ones, though. Now, there's another value that I haven't seen too much experience with. It's total attack. The only thing that scales with total attack in the game, truly, currently, is the Batom Underground passive. And it's the Elder Swamp Thing bombs, I guess, but they don't really seem to work. But yeah, I would like to see this value explored, but I'm gonna leave it in this place because I honestly don't know how good it would be. And then the last value, which is the worst possible one in the game, is more attack. Because when it says more attack, you're going to go into your character stats, you're gonna click the attack stat, and you're gonna see how much attack it says before adding all the gear bonuses, all the talents, all the artifact bonuses, and that's gonna be what's buffed by that. And it's absolute garbage. And yeah, in terms of those values, I would love to see more damage against target buffs, like the Raven passive, and more lethal in the game, because the lethal value has been in the game for like 5 years, 6 years since the release of the game. It suffered some changes at some points. But the thing is, it's always seen as such a niche thing. Like, we don't talk about lethal. Like, Batman Team kind of does lethal. You kind of can get some lethal damage on your artifacts. You kind of have to spend a lot of money for that. Bring lethal to relevancy, please. I would love to see that. Now, there's a whole nother category of buffs that the character can give, which is utility buffs. And in this scenario, we're going to have stuff like Dr. Fates and Power Girl, reducing the cost of power bars. And that's great, but I don't think we need more of those. 2 is more than enough. And then we have kind of a different category, which is, for example, the shields that characters provide, like the Swamp Thing shield, the Elder Swamp Thing shield, the Silver Green Lantern shield, the time extension Red Hood provides, which are such niche and utility things. And look, I love utility things. If I could have a Green Lantern shield on every single team in the game and not have to combo interrupt ever again, I would be the happiest man. However, if utility is the only thing that you're gonna give me, it's not gonna be that much of a successful character, because I'm most likely gonna pick over that something that gives me more damage and suffer the penalty of not having the utility. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. That's all the guidance I had to give upon how to make a good new character, kind of the guidelines that you should follow. It's just my opinion. I don't think this will change or fix anything. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this. Hope you found it enjoyable. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye!